overall overtime.
Western media, you've been spreading lies just to sow confusion, just to destabilize my sovereign editor, divide and conquer. Your quest to take
we getting this warm up, ladies and gentlemen.
My sweet home Africa.
Hey.
Mass migration has started. Millions out.
Shout out to all y'all listening.
All the minerals you stole.
We gotta give a round of applause in a second.
Sanctions and baseless sanctions.
We appreciate the great song choice.
But with the can-do people,
how it goes?
Never yield. And I say no more, no more,
oh,
no more. And we say no more, no more.
She's ready, ladies and gentlemen. Give her a round of applause. She is here. On Spotify Live for the first time. The great Hermela Aregawi, someone have rocked with for so many years with it. Hermela, how are you doing?
Awesome. I'm good. I love that intro. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you all the way and then some in a wonderful tone way where you get the full ding sound of approval. There you go. I mean, you are transitioning because you're handling the blow dry and everything. You were handling business just now, getting prepared.
Yeah, you mean just like everything with the movement?
Oh no, I was just saying like you just getting prepared just now with that in a major way. So yeah, also that you be.
It's we're in the multitasking realm right now, but this is a really fun intro. You got me into the vibe.
Well, I have to give you the best because you always been one of the best great colleague that should be with this. I wanted to ask you because you posted that great event in at least Jersey the other day in regards to holding Bob Menendez accountable in regards to a lot of wrong decisions being made towards the U.S. perspective in regards to everything going on in Ethiopia at the moment. Are you in New Jersey at the moment? Or are you back in LA at the moment?
I'm actually back in LA. This whole, movement works not, internationally really. Hashtag Break the Silence, which is a offshoot of hashtag No More, which was really started because I'm Ethiopian American. I mostly grew up here, but I lived in Ethiopia. And, as you know, I worked in mainstream media for over 10 years. And just seeing how the conflict in Ethiopia was being reported on in the beginning, I was really buying into what mainstream media was saying, even though it didn't really reflect my experience, what I know about Ethiopia, the Ethiopian people, Eritrea, and all of that. They were just sort of painting this really savage, ethnic division, ethnically divided kind of people. And I was like, this is not what I know. And, this famine and war and all this stuff, ignoring a bunch of other really pertinent context. And so basically, long story short, I went independent because I couldn't really say what was real while working for the local CBS affiliate here. And so I just kind of hopped off on the independent train. Oh, you know what? It looks like so I'm back. So I just kind of hopped off on the independent train as a journalist, and we launched the hashtag No More campaign, and it really is just about it really a lot of struggles. The whole point is our struggle. Oh man, I hope my signal clears up. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we heard you okay. It went out for 1 second, but we heard you in terms of when you were talking about making yourself independent and how it led you to making the hashtags. As you were saying, you keep on going right there. It was so great.
Yeah. So really, the what happened was hashtag No More was launched out of this recognition that mainstream media was still telling a very stereotype story about Africa. I mean, the type of stories I used to hear when we moved out here in the early 90s. And I thought that we had moved on and, there was sort of a recognition that, that, I don't know, a recognition that those African stereotypes don't apply the way that they used to. I don't even know that they applied then. But basically, it was just mainstream media as a tool of fueling wars. I mean, we know this when it comes to Iraq and Syria, and we talk about how Libya was, another hack job where they went in, said, made up all these reasons, manufactured consent to go in, take out Gaddafi, and the fallout of that is you've got Mali and Libya just a war zone, parts of them just like war zones as a result. And I was like, oh, they're not going to do this to Ethiopia. This is crazy. Like, we've been through too much. We're fighting, the country's fighting an armed insurgency, and it's coming from the previous government, which was an ethno-fascist government. It was a government that was a minority government from this ethnicity in the north. Both of my parents happen to be from there, but I don't buy into this whole like this ethnicity is better than that ethnicity. You know how like here we're talking black and white, and then you go to Africa and they try to break you down to the ethnicity, and it's like, this is not even like, this is a made up construct. A lot of us just sort of like Ethiopian, and so if you happen to be from one region or another, sure, you may be from that ethnicity, but we just don't care, like it just, but they insist that we care, and it's like, but we don't though. They're like, no, you guys are killing each other because of ethnicity, right? And I'm like, no, that's not it. What happened is this political group that was powerful for so long attacked the federal defense forces, which in any country would launch a war. You would go after that group, no question asked. And the U.S. was making it seem like the government was just on the attack, trying to kill these ethnic Tigrayans, when what they were doing was responding to this now designated terrorist group. They're designated as terrorists because they attacked the federal army base and killed thousands of soldiers, which I think qualifies you to be a terrorist organization. Like, it's well earned. So basically, no more, I would say, to an audience that may not understand like the ins and outs of Ethiopia, which I don't blame you if you don't, is all of our struggles are connected. Like, all of the struggles in the global South, I really have come to understand, and many people have come to understand, are connected. They use mainstream media to gaslight, to confuse. They use it to sort of make, Black folks here feel like they're different from Black folks in Africa, and folks in Africa feel like they're different from Black folks here. And it's like, no, they're actually using that same system, these like, so-called like journalism, when really it's like government propaganda. It really, really is when it comes to foreign policy. I know they're a little bit softer about it domestically, but it's still like very, these sources have an agenda a lot of the times, and we have to be aware of that. And I think so many struggles, everything like Black Lives Matter, Me Too, this community, that community, they're all usually operate in silos. I mean, I know for many of us that grew up here from Ethiopia, we're, very much aware of the Black cause here because we grew up here. But when you talk about some of, like some of the work that's being done sometimes can be, there's no reason why everybody is not out when something happens when it comes to the Black community here or when it comes to Africa. But we seem to think that they're different. And I think that's what really keeps us kind of fighting a difficult uphill battle, because we're working in smaller groups when we should be working in a much more united, like really like more global group. And that is what #NoMore is about. The same system that subjugates Black folks here subjugates Black folks in Africa, period. And I think that the recognition of that is important.
Get this. Oh yeah, I had to give you that major round of applause, because you went and dropped, as we got with Fun Master Flex, when he has something major in terms of a hit. You just dropped the hit of Truth This That Says All the Way, where you get the Fun Master Flex sound that I had to bestow to you there. And for those that always try to divide us, whether over here or in the motherland, they get this whole sound, no doubt about it.
Love it.
They certainly do with that. And, one of those that you have been very, very critical about, because we're going to get into CNN's Nima El-Bajir in a bit about that. And in particular, ironic, because then she went over to cover the Ukraine war at the moment, is one head of the World Health Organization and Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus, and how you've been very, very vocal in regards to what a problematic person he is. Is he scared to get an interview with you? Do you think he's scared to take an interview from you, Hermela?
Oh, he would never. He's already blocked me on Twitter. Yeah, he would never.
Really?
Yeah, he would never. It's, he knows exactly what he's done. He knows the game is on its way up. We're living a different world where, we live in a globalized world where people can share information and connect the dots. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time before he leaves that position. I mean, the head of the World Health Organization, yes, he's Ethiopian, and a lot of Ethiopians supported him, but guess what? Most of them regret it. Most of them regret it because he has really used that position to fuel this war. He is a member. This isn't a conspiracy. He literally is an official member of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, this ethno-fascist group that started this war in Ethiopia, and they keep, they attack this base, and then when the government responds, they're like, oh no, genocide, they're just trying to kill this whole ethnicity, it's not us. And it's like, no, it's you, the political group that started this war that they're after. I fell for that genocide thing too, because I didn't know. I was catching up onto Ethiopian politics. So he has his hands dirty in that. And he keeps talking about just the Tigray region as if that's the only region that's affected. The federal government declared a ceasefire in June, so soldiers have not even been in Tigray in June, and that's all he talks about, because what he wants is all this aid to go into that region and basically feed the soldiers so that they can come back on these UN trucks like we saw them do in July and August and kill their own people, kill other ethnicities in their country. And he is the orchestrator of that. 2 UN officials, longtime UN officials, 2 women, one from Kenya, the other based out here in New York, like 15 years and 30 years in the agency, were on audio saying Tedros Adhanom is taking over our job and basically orchestrating the aid to help his rebel, now terrorist group friends. So, and Nima is a part of that same propaganda. She's close to him. They work together. That's what her source is. And I mean, the one thing that has been really frustrating to realize in the last year is they do the most, and I say they as like the system does the most damage to Black people and people in the global South using Black people. And it's so frustrating because a lot of times I'll still see people get excited about the first Black this, the first Ethiopian this, the first whatever this. And then so many times what happens after is so damaging to the community. And so it really, they wouldn't go as far as they did on the propaganda and the fueling war in Ethiopia if they didn't have somebody like Tedros Adhanom, an Ethiopian, like regurgitating the propaganda. If they didn't have Nima, who, yes, she's African, but who cares? Like she does work that's against her native country of Sudan. She does work that's against the Ethiopia. So, it's like, I really don't care anymore if somebody's A, B, C, or D in terms of identity, because we've seen the most damage done through people that look like us. And I think that is something that we all globally should really recognize and be careful about, because I feel like that's the new game. They figured it out. They're like, oh, let's just give them the first Black this, first African this, and then we'll do whatever the hell we want.
Well, let me ask you something, because this is something where me knowing you for about 7 to 8 years now, you really do draw like a really great balance between being both like a quality person in general, and then you bring the realness all the way and then some in the major way that you do. Where I've never on Twitter, I've never seen you curse on Twitter before. HA, I've never seen you curse on Twitter before, but yet you and the just endless energy that you bring on Twitter, particularly during out this whole period in regards to TPLF's and whole dishonesty campaign towards what they've done in a global sense, you are just so efficient, but also just diligent towards just getting all the information in the tweet while speaking and not losing any of that powerful tone. But at the same time, not even just, I haven't seen any single curse from you whatsoever. As you mentioned, you got that,
Yeah.
you got that grip from your mom. Can you explain to me that balance that you have mastered in an effective way?
That is hilarious. Listen, I'm mainstream media trained, right? So we are trained to make sure you don't cuss, make sure you don't this, make sure you don't that. Go, with it, you got to stay within these lines. Make sure you say allegedly. Like, it's all this stuff that is like, really beat into you, which, it's good. It's good. On the foundation level, I think it is good training. It makes you really careful. And I'm a product of that. At the same time, once I know something for sure, once I have enough data to know, oh my God, this system is literally lying. And it's it's the system I grew up in. It's the mainstream media system. And so it's like, I know what the standards are supposed to be. So I know when they're completely rigging those standards when it comes to reporting on conflicts in Africa. I can see the patterns because I know what you're getting all this data and I'm like, that's reportable, that's reportable, and they're not reporting it. They're just choosing to kind of regurgitate the same thing. So once I see that level of corruption that's actually affecting people's lives, like literally people are dying over this BS, and and a country is fracturing, not just internally, but here in the diaspora, they've got people that should be friends, that should be family members fighting with each other about the narrative because one side thinks that, CNN and New York Times can do wrong and there's credible and the UN is all credible and everybody, like the UN would never lie or people in the UN would never lie. And then the rest of us figured out, oh no, they do though. They do though. They literally will lie and they will do it over and over again. They were superficially pick who the villain and the victim is, just like it's not good for my hair, huh? Okay, sorry. I'm trying to.
Oh, whoever said that need to understand it's still popping no matter what. I'm just saying.
My hairstylist is like concerned. You know what? I'm gonna let you talk a little bit because it's literally a minute of hair drying. Or does this sound okay to you?
Yeah. See, this is how real we keep it. This is how real we keep it, y'all. We're able to be versatile. Yeah, we're able to have a full top conversation while she is handling the whole style for that top look that she has with that. As she handles that right there, shout out to Justin Booker, as well as Amy Flex, as well as the others that will listen to this one on playback. If you can hear me,
This is hilarious. Can I ask you a question? Because it will also help us get through the next couple of minutes. Because
yeah. If you need me to fill time, for sure.
I mean, I'm actually genuinely curious. I wouldn't ask you a question I'm not curious about, but you came out to the People's Forums in December when I was out there
with Eugene
Purrier, one of my favorite people who understands this game, understood this game long before I did. And I know my signal might be going in and out, but I'm curious because I think it's really difficult for people outside of the community. I mean, even for people in the community, to be honest, like I told you, we're at odds. Like people within are arguing about what is the story. So I'm curious, as someone who's like learning about it from the outside looking in, what have you been able to gather about this conflict? Maybe what you thought you knew before, or what it seems like is the case. Like I'm curious what you were able to grasp because there's just so much in it.
Oh yeah. Oh, H.A. Mela, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna be fascinated by this, and I think I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you in December when I had that great event at the People's Forum. How I got into this was actually from now someone who's sort of like a friend right now in the actress world. I know you're probably familiar with her. Ilfina Shadira, actually, in terms of the Godfather of Harlem. Me and her, like at least from like the pandemic at the start, really at least in terms of IG, become like very friendly in terms of things because she's someone being from Harlem and me being Brooklyn here. I really do have like a lot of like respect for her personality wise and stuff. But her father, he started this group, African Services, here in Harlem, but he is Tigerian actually, and he moves here in the late '70s to New York and stuff. But he's Tigerian, and when the conflict, well, really honestly, when TPLF, dishonesty continued, and Prime Minister Abiy Amin had to respond the way that he needed to, it was something where it was part of that major coverage of calling, Prime Minister Ahmed, shameful and saying he didn't deserve his Nobel Peace Prize that he won previously. And that's how it was just that level of getting like that viewpoint where you just saw it as, oh my goodness, they are going after TPLF and most, not even just TPLF, just Tigerians all over. That was the whole narrative that was like baked in regards to that initial response. And even though I have other Ethiopian friends, like she, was like at least the main one that I was seeing that from in regards to the coverage. So I always keep an open mind about those things, though, Hermela, in terms of that. But it was something where, at least knowing how she is, like a person, I assume benefit of doubt that I was getting at least to the bottom of the whole entire thing. And this was with her not choosing any sides with TPLF, but it was just her mentioning all the violence towards Tigerians, which obviously for anybody having any violence in conflict or war, it's horrible. But but it's that side where it presents a neutrality that's still balanced towards blaming the government for it. And it's just something where it's not, you don't get the full story when you see, once again, particularly when you realize this man won a Nobel Peace Prize, literally, as well as U.S. involvement with TPLF for so many years in terms of our, meddling. And then it was just like the full, I guess, rational leftist in me was like, yeah, this can't be ignored here. Like, this is a response towards a group that wants to be problematic again, who just because they got voted out of office or no longer in power, now they're responding in this whole way, and it leading towards what we have, and how I had to really be able to see that full picture, like how obviously you, were able to have to see it after, things started to surface of what it was. And now it came to this.
Exactly. The one thing that I would say that is a good shorthand, and I try to also apply it now, learning all of this, is it says I have all the bars, but I'm just going to keep talking. You tell me if it cuts up for too long. But the one thing,
you're good right now.
One thing that we all have to be on the lookout for as people of color and Black people here in the States is when we hear something about particularly an African country or a Black country like Haiti, when we start to hear conversations that break you down to some ethnic group, just know that is unnatural. Like it's unnatural in this day and age. Chances are it's not just about that. A lot of political groups that are formed based on these ethnicities are backed by the West, right? And it's kind of an evil genius because what they do is they like feed into them that you're amazing, you're the best, you're the only one that can run this country, you're like a special kind of Black, right? And and then they dominate a country for so many years. They have the back in the West. They're using violence to maintain that power, and then they have the mainstream media kind of covering it all up for them, and people are scared to speak up because they're getting killed, they're going into jail, which is what happened in Ethiopia, which is why I really did not know the depths of the abuses under the TPLF and the coalition party, the EPRDF, which really they dominated. They chose who was in that coalition, even from the other ethnic groups. So so what happens when you have these kind of political groups that are based on ethnicity, when the country starts to respond or there's a backlash, it's easy to say it's about the whole ethnicity, when really it's about that political group that's based on the ethnicity. In the case of Tigray, most of Tigray is still poor. Most Tigrayans did not benefit from this group. In fact, they lost family members in the 17-year struggle against the communist government, but they don't actually benefit monetarily. It's just like an elite small percentage. I'm just, my family, or at least my mom, was not involved in the politics, so to me nothing I've ever had is from this group, so I don't owe them anything. and I come from a journalism background, so I just want to know the truth because I don't want to be divided. Like our family is, like many families are, people from technically different ethnicities. We all, speak the same working language of Amharic because most people do, and maybe you speak a second language depending on where your, family is from. But we're not tripping over it, right? We don't. The political groups are the political groups, and the people are the people. They really are not like. It's almost like trying to create like real deep divisions based on light skin, dark skin here, right? Like, okay, there might be some like stuff, but that's not where like we're not like forming our friendships and family really based on that. But if you compare it to what's being done in Ethiopia, it's like they come and tell you like, light skinned people live only in Texas and dark skinned people live in this shade. And it's like, that is a weird, superficial division, like way to divide people. And we're not doing it. Like, we're not having it. You're not going to keep telling us this is what we do, because we don't. You come in and you use that and you put fuel on that because you want to cover up certain political issues, certain abuses of power based on the people that you back, right? So I think that kind of awareness really needs to be global, or else we're going to be on the wrong side of somebody else's struggle, not knowing what it's really about.
The fact that you said not having that, I don't know if that was more the Bay State, Massachusetts in you, or that time growing up having to be in Mississippi with your mom doing her thing.
I'm a hodgepodge of a person. Yeah, I grew up in the South for 10 years. Boston area for 7, LA.
Hippie at heart, as you would say.
Huh?
Hippie at heart, as you would say one time.
Wait, what did I say? What at heart?
It was a hippie at heart was like one of your captions.
Yes. I really, it's such a blessing to be from so many different places, because I think it just really helps me not stereotype things. Like, people will say to you like, oh, Mississippi, you lived in Mississippi, bless your heart. And it's like, there were some issues, but it's not what you think it is. It's stereotypical, view of what it means to live in Mississippi is it's a stereotype, and it's not all real, and so I think that even within the United States, it's so interesting how people have a stereotype view of people from different regions. Now take that to, when you're talking about people in the US versus Africa versus the US, imagine how different, they think people are.
Yes. And that's the thing that's so key in regards to, those barriers that, we still have to deal with, even in progressive media, and having those stereotypes really be eviscerated, with that. And that's something where you going up and after the time Mississippi and Massachusetts, and then at least embarking on the career you had. Shout out to Emerson University. I would have went there, but instead I went to BU, and BU's ridiculousness in terms of it.
It's great too. Yeah. I there was a point where I wished I had gone to BU, because BU had the option. So Emerson, if you were a broadcast journalism major, that was kind of all that you were, unless you paid extra to get a double major or a minor. BU had it where if you're a journalism major, you also had to have a second major that was like an expertise in history, political science. And I was like, that was smart. I wish I did that.
Well, you know what? Actually, believe it or not, they let you do it either as a minor or just a concentration.
Okay. What was yours?
Yeah, political science.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that they made sure you were, had a minor or major. But, at the end of the day, I did all right.
Oh, you did more than all right, and then some. Plus, you didn't have to deal with a lot of Commonwealth Avenue ridiculousness, particularly with BU and 10% of schools from California. It was a lot. It was a lot with BU. Even though I got love for a lot of people in Boston, and I really didn't want to go to NYU here. I wanted to leave Brooklyn to go to school. Yeah. I wanted to really leave and still be in the city. But when I saw Emerson literally was downtown and had no campus, I was like, I needed a campus.
For sure. Honestly, for sure. I did not have a very typical college experience. And there's a part of me that sometimes misses that. But BU, I just feel like it was a whole university vibe. So I don't think it was a bad choice.
Let me ask you this, because knowing you since when you were at TYT the first time when it was on Current all the
Yes.
way, and then at the Al Jazeera, and then AJA, and how, oh my goodness, how that came to be. Shout out to Morgan Rashford, by the way, enjoying her career at NBC at
Nice.
least. You know more.
She's doing it. Yeah, I do. I was there with her at the same time. You know, she was, she was focused. She knew what she wanted to do, and she stuck with it, and she's doing well. So good for her.
Yeah, but it is about you with this all the way. And I don't even want to mention Jonathan Larson. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to mention that guy. Off the record, I'll tell you what went down when I was at TYT in terms of him. But what led you to say, because when I saw you rocking that Kron in the Bay Area, I was like, whoa, this is a major development where you, with how you keep it so real in terms of the progressive political world. Now, I was saying, are you desiring the local TV anchoring and whole reporting? I was like, this is a major cool development right there. What led to you making that switch? And then with CBS LA, and then what made you say, you know what? I'm too real for this. Not that they're not real in local news media, having a lot of great colleagues too, of course. But what made you get in, get out?
Yeah, I had a really good experience with CBS LA. Like, love my colleagues. Made some friends there. There's like it was a good work experience. Really loved the news director who ended up leaving, but the news director that hired me, someone that I've known for a long time, that's known me for a long time from Current TV. A lot of the people that were managers there, I have so much respect for. Now let's go to Kron. Kron. No, we're not going to get into the ins and outs of Kron, but I'll tell you why I took Kron as a job. That was a very practical decision because, as you know, I was with Al Jazeera America for 3 years between 2013 and 2016. Was with them at launch all the way to the end. And what I realized as I was starting to look for jobs then was, everybody wants you to have that local experience. I can shoot, I can edit, I can, bang out packages, 2 packages a day. And I just didn't really have that because Al Jazeera America was just a different thing. It wasn't the local turn something every day in the field. So I just basically had to get real with myself and said I did not have a very typical, at the time it wasn't typical. I think now people have all kinds of paths to careers, but I felt like this, I did not have a very typical career where I went to small local news outlet in the middle of small town in America and then work my way up. So I said I'm gonna have to go back and do the grind of shooting and editing and one man banding, as they call it, where you're shooting and editing all your own stuff and reporting. And to be honest, some of that decision was made not understanding how much work and how stressful that was really going to be in a market like the Bay Area that was huge. It's a huge market. It's like the number 6 and 7. So that means you have a lot of area to cover. Sometimes you're driving 2 hours and there's major stories that come out of there. And so it's a very difficult place to do one man banding for the first time. So it was very much a baptism by fire situation, and I survived it 2 years and some change. And I gotta tell you, I am a much better producer, writer, reporter, journalist because of my time there, and it was even more refined at my time at CBS LA. So thank God these were good decisions. Ultimately, it was not glamorous, my job at Kron. I don't care what it looked like on air. It was really lot of growing pains for sure, but it's just a testament to anybody who's trying to do anything difficult or anything big. Like, just know that the growth, the growing pains and the failing and the feeling like you suck at this and then getting back up is just very much a process when you're trying to become an expert at anything.
That's the thing, because and thankfully, and this is why I just necessarily didn't want to do like reporting after like BU in terms of like a local a very small town with it, because I just couldn't afford to necessarily even move to like Maine or say Wyoming or whatnot. and it's just something where I just would have felt I would have lost like that whole like desire for doing news, and I just got it, and it's just more because political media and the importance of progressive policy and policies like got into my realm where I just wanted to write just as much as doing like any like on camera stuff. And that's the thing where you were at least able, because you were at a national place in Al Jazeera America, where you didn't have to go to a small market and then start from there all the way up with it. And that's something where for you to be able to be at the sixth biggest market in a well respected place like Kron, I mean, even people on the East Coast knowing Kron like that, for you, did you feel for sure that they definitely respected that you were at AJA and at TYT in terms of just seeing that, hey, she's got shots which you didn't need to be at a whole small market, like 2, 3 small markets to really earn, that position?
I mean, it helped get me the job, but I can't really say it, it made it any that much easier when I was in it, because
Mm.
the thing is, it's a whole different skill. I mean, it's some of the same skills, but you know I wasn't shooting or editing at Al Jazeera America, right? So I'm coming in, some of my video in the
Mm.
beginning is like overexposed, and something about my computer wasn't letting me see that. So I would see it on air and I'm like, oh my God, that's not what it looked like on my laptop.
Your computer was being a hater? Your
My,
computer was being
my
a
computer was
hater?
being a hater and sabotaging me. No, I just did not know what I was doing. Was the fact of the matter. I didn't know how to use the camera that I had, right? Or like, it's just, there's a training process. You're using a different camera. What you see in the lens is going to be a little different than what you. There's so many little bits to learn, and everybody there was doing a lot. Like it was just that type of station where everybody did multiple things, so there wasn't always somebody to just check it and make sure. And I had a really incredible executive producer there who I'm still friends with to this day, Cassine. um, and so he really kind
Mm.
of just helped me out. He was just he knew I had it. He knew I had some storytelling in me. He knew there was he knew I had certain talent to bring to the table, but I needed help with the technical stuff because that's not where I came from. And he was great, and you just need that one person somewhere to just like see that in you and
Yep.
help you. And yeah, those 2 years, like I said, I learned a lot. And the thing about when you're growing is it doesn't feel like you're growing, it just hurts. It feels like you're failing half the time, but it's because you're learning something new, so of course it's not going to be comfortable.
If I had known, I would have been giving you even more positive salt, saying you're killing it, doing your thing. I didn't even know, but that just shows how you were still, to me, from the outside, being able to do such a quality job, for them in a new role for you. That was a new role entirely. And to me, hey, CBS LA, if they thought that you weren't doing that, they wouldn't have hired you in the first place from crime. So for me,
Exactly, honestly,
talk
like
your stuff,
I yeah, go.
talk your stuff, Mela. Talk your
No, I
stuff
was
right
like,
there.
I earned my stripes
Hmm.
with what I did at Con, and that's what they saw when I came down to CBS LA. They're like, oh, if you could do that and produce this, it's towards the end I started to feel good about my work. And as much as I'm talking about the hard stuff, there was like I look back on some of that stuff and I'm like, that was not bad, you know. And so it wasn't to say that I was like
Hmm.
failing every day and hated everything that I did, but there was just definitely a learning curve. And but by the time I got to CBS, they give you your own photog editor, so you're not doing all that. You're just focusing on the reporting part. And and they were like,
Hmm.
they're looking at the reel and they're like, if you can produce that when you're shooting and editing your own stuff, you'll be fine here. And that was, that those are the moments where you're like, oh, thank God I made that hard decision. Thank God I stuck with it, because this has just made it so much easier for me to get this job, which was kind of a dream to come back to LA, because I feel like this is the closest thing I have to home.
And what was that for you that you felt that I love you, CBS LA, but it's time for me to roll out and be back in the progressive or leftist adversarial journalism realm?
I just felt like I had so much more I wanted to say about what's going on in Ethiopia, and I felt really limited. Like, you were kind of you're dancing that line. Like some of the stuff you're seeing now, I'm not going to be able to say that then. Like they literally would have let me go. But there was a conversation that was just had with managers. They were like, I mean, it looks like you're doing activism. And I'm like, it's not activism. The journalism's just bad. And then there was just like a conversation like, oh, well, we need to really look into it. And that, but for now, we'll just keep you off the schedule for now. And I was like, cool. Yeah, which is, listen, it's fine because it's the system. It's the system. It's not the individuals. It's the system. Of course, they can't have me saying what CBS Network is reporting is wrong. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like as much as they may or may not like me, they can't have me sit there saying my network is, participating in propaganda in so many ways.
Did you say that?
I never said that. I never said that. But the things I were saying were true. Were at odds with what was being reported in most of the major networks. So, to keep me there. And listen, like basically, what would happen was in that moment I made a decision. I said I could just kind of lay low and get back on the schedule in 2 weeks, or I could just go all in. And I had a conversation with my mom, and I said to her, okay, this is a conversation I had, like, what am I going to do? And she's just like, go for it. And I was like, cool. I got my mom backing. Like she was, living with me. And so she just said, I like, if it's about finances, I've got you covered for a little bit till you figure your stuff out. Yeah. And you know what? She didn't have to cover me for long. So, it was, shout out to my mom, man. She's literally like, as the years go on, I'm like, she's definitely different, and I'm thankful for it.
Two more before we let you go and and let you handle that great time at the salon with that great ambiance in the back with it. Linking up with BT Newsroom for a bit, and with us talking about Eugene earlier, and seeing Ronna Khaled there with it. Are you planning to do like anything more, with them, or was that just for at least in regards to in the war in Ethiopia?
No, I would say, I want to get a little more connected with Rania because she's overseas, but I would say, the relationship between myself, the No More movement, which I would, suggest that your listeners check out just by going to #NoMore on Twitter. I would, this relationship between myself, Eugene, and all of us, and Rania, it's gonna be for a long time. Because here's the thing: we see a certain connected cause. That's not just what's going on in the U.S., not just what's going on in Ethiopia, not just what's going on in Lebanon, where Rania is, but much of what we call the global South, which is, not the quote unquote West or like European countries. There is Eugene gets the system. He got the system way before I did. Answer Coalition understands the role of imperialism and subjugating people in all of the global South, including here in the U.S., and how they kind of pin people against each other when they really should be working together. And so we've talked, Eugene and I have talked about, okay, how can we collaborate more? We do have a global day of rally for No More, where we're inviting a lot of Pan-African folks. So I'll definitely keep you posted on that. Right now, the date is for June 5th. We just sort of decided on that. So that's something that we're going to be working towards. Eugene's also doing a little traveling, and I might hop along or go with sometime in May, but we'll see. But no, this is God willing, this is a long time partnership.
It is indeed, and he, is a pure God with it. Even with any slight disagreement over Ukraine, like I may have with him with that, but I know it's coming in that general perspective of being at least anti-imperialist and just being someone that's truly for the proletariat and for the people. With that, it's ironic as we come to a near close on this, that we are on Spotify with this because it is something that was so funny. Well, at least the conversation situation probably, wasn't necessarily or whatnot, But with Joe Rogan, obviously, and by the way, I keep real Spotify, no matter what or
Ooh,
whatnot.
you're saving the most controversial for last, but no, this is good. Go ahead.
Hey, I keep real, on the platform and all that. And I was conflicted because I was saying to myself, like, I really bonded at least with this app, at least like before it was even Spotify. And then when they bought it from my friend from Locker Room and made it into Spotify, then Green Room, and now Live, where I would say to myself when they, stood behind him, that I was something where I was going to at least talk about it in here, no matter what the title was and how I felt he's ridiculous, obviously, all the way with it, But I was saying to myself that I didn't know if anybody wants to do their own personal boycott of Spotify, that is their choice with it. Including one person that decided to take their podcast off of it in terms of one friend with it that's black, but it's something where it was just I felt that at the very least, though, yes, there's a lot of centrists and slash neoliberal people that was certainly getting at him for sure and piling on him, no doubt about it, and they could be very annoying, with that. But a good colleague of ours and a good friend of yours, I had to get on him with this. Logan Woodhouse, though, like he was defending him all the way, or at least defending, at least in terms of him from not getting cancel culture, i.e., per se. And I don't believe against culture, but I felt that there's still some accountability in terms of his past videos that I felt problematic, with that. And I just felt that at the very least, I saw too many people, I feel, in progressive or left circles, that were tolerating, him, more than I thought they would. But
You know what? I know you messaged me about this, and I didn't feel like it was we could have really figured, or we could have had the conversation via Twitter DM, because I think it's more complicated. So here's the thing. I to me, a lot of people were not even defending Joe Rogan, what he said, the compilation. That's not the point. The point is the White House, the U.S. government is telling a private company they need to censor this person. That, first of all, that is weird. That's not normal. That's one,
that
right?
is.
Two,
Yep.
we're so far into the pandemic, you can't tell me it's a health emergency and this is the most important thing right now. No, people have decided what they're going to do, whether they're going to get vaccinated or not. Okay, it's 2 years in, and so to me, it's a made up reason. They made up this reason of wanting to take him down because of his anti-vax stuff. And then all of a sudden it twisted to, oh, he's racist. It's like, okay, wait, which is it? Why did the White House get involved? Is it because of his anti-vax or alleged anti-vax status or a stance? Or is it because, this N-word compilation, right? Here's what I actually think it's about. I think it's about them saying, you're not going to be an independent, successful media entity without us having a say with the type of things you do and don't say. You need to get in line like the CNNs and the New York Times and all the different networks, because you're not about to find a loophole in this system. So to me, as someone in media, I look at that and I'm like, no, you're not going to concoct a reason to take this person down because he's symbolic of an individual actually finding success and money, right? Like to be successful and make a lot of money, whether it's too much or whatever, like that's a different conversation. But we should be in a world where you can succeed without, as a media person, without buying into the mainstream system, which, it takes us back to why I went into this, we started this no more thing. This system can really, really be subjugating, can really fuel death. So don't tell me Joe Rogan is dangerous, any more dangerous than CNN is. Because when it comes to the Nima El-Bagir's reporting and CNN's reporting literally caused the deaths of thousands of people on the ground in Ethiopia, okay? And continues to do that. So if you want to start censoring somebody, start with that. Start with yourself, right? So that was the biggest thing. And the second thing is liberals really, I've noticed liberals, not progressive, not true progressive, but liberals really love to tell Black folks and women what to be mad about. I don't like that. You're not going to tell me what to be mad about today. I'll decide myself. I'm not, you're not going to tell me what to be offended about today. You're not going to decide. You're not going to set the agenda for my day. I'm going to figure it out. Okay. So that was to me the biggest thing. You're not going to have me here talking about the N-word compilation because there's a larger issue here. You want me to talk about the N-word compilation, but what I want to talk about is why the White House is up there telling a media company they need to censor somebody. Literally. Not even subtly, but literally. Right? And so they start policing him. Next is us. Like, I don't even like to put out anything about Ukraine and Russia very much. Why? Because people get taken down on Twitter. What kind of world are we living in?
Preacher Queen, I mean, that's the Queen Mela flow right there. When she was just telling it in that major way, like it's someone that literally, as you know, having my Twitter account for 18 months, and that really was so damn annoying, particularly when towards that's
a long time. That's crazy. How did you get it back, by the way? Because Simon, Tesfa, Mariam, and Nebiu, some my co-founders of No More, like they took them down, and they're still down. We still don't know what.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Hermela, because I want to get in contact with him to help get it back. Well, basically, I had to really go into a Twitter space, or at least some Black women at Twitter on my backup account, and try to tell them, hey, you're having this Twitter space event about protecting Black people on Twitter and stuff, but you're not protecting Black journalists with how your algorithm allows a lot of trolls to be racist. And that had happened several times to me on my account, where I had one conservative troll, ironically, when it was Joe Rogan and Elon Musk talking about weed and everything. It was just a regular conversation, and I just said, like, when that conversation was happening, is that, oh, it's just a lot of white privilege here and there with this. And I had this weird conservative troll, literally, well, two actually. First, it was this boxer who was cursing at me, calling me the F word in terms of stuff. And I mean, even though I'm not, hey, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're gay or not. You shouldn't be calling anyone, that. And it was just something where the guy was just really cursing at me, as well as this other weird troll. And I just muted them because they were weird and everything. And I was laughing at them and clowning them. And I rarely curse on Twitter, Hermela, particularly for my main account. And apparently, after I muted him because I clowned this guy's weird haircut, this weird conservative guy out from outside Toronto, of all places, wasn't even here in the States, he went and reported my tweets with just me laughing at him and just calling him a moron. I just called him a moron. And it triggered the algorithm, and it led to locking my account the first time. And it had happened again with some random fan of the Oakland Raiders, and me just calling him a moron, that's it, and muting him, and reported my account. And Sean King had to help try to get me back on there, literally, in terms of tweet it out. So it was already two instances when I had to deal with some weird conservatives that will report my whole thing. And just because I called them a moron for them cursing at me and being weird, it led to me not having it locked the first two times. And then this third time happened, where this was September 2020. I'm really starting to do a lot more, like, really shows in regards to when this app was before Spotify, and it was the Locker Room app. And I'm starting to do more general hosting because it was the time to do it in terms of general stuff, particularly in the 5th month of the pandemic, and really using my page to really build up a lot of stuff for me and stuff. And it was apparently based on this one person who took a shot at Sean King, and she's not Black, but she has a big platform on Twitter. And she was like an IG model, but someone that I was cool with for like years because she had really a lot of smart takes and stuff, being from Sweden and stuff. And weirdly, she would appropriate a lot of things about Black culture and stuff. So it was something where I simply gave her the definition of appropriation and stuff. And her weird trolls, literally, this is a literal definition, just like went and got it from Webster's, just to show what it is. And mentioning that, appropriation is not a bad thing always, but, it can be here and there. And her weird trolls, like, were just going into my whole mentions and stuff like that. And I just simply laughed at them and called them morons. And basically that got reported and all that, and had to show them literally that I was getting harassed after trying to message people on LinkedIn and no one responding on Twitter. And it was just like a thing where if I could just talk to one human being or literally talk to some of my people at BU, because Jack Dorsey, he funded the anti-racism research for Ibrahim Kendi's program there. And I was like, yo, let me literally talk to this guy and tell them, like, his platform is not living up to anti-racism while giving money.
It's not. Yeah, of course it's not. You know, what you're describing is exactly why I have become like very, very staunch, like anti this sort of censorship. Yeah, that to me is the crux of what happened with Joe Rogan. They removed all of these episodes, some of which had nothing to do with anything. That's not okay. Because this is why we all have to listen. As long as you're not publishing somebody's like super private information and putting them in danger, like, you know, as long as something, you know, it's a violation of that kind of thing, I'm all for people saying stuff to offend me, right? Like, it's fine, because then I can say what I want, because I don't care, you know, like, if they're offended. So it's a way to kind of, you know, it's the liberals in general, or the liberal system, you know, mainstream media says, oh, you know, we're censoring this because it's like the N-word, but then the next thing you know, they're censoring you because they don't like what you're saying about what they're doing. So it's like, you know, I'd rather just kind of keep those people that offend me, so that when I have something that I feel like is important to discuss that actually affects people's lives, then they can't use that same, you know, game against me. So I think that, you know, I know a lot of maybe the offensive things, some of us come from the conservative space, but there's also a lot of liberal, dictators online. You know, there was this white woman who jumped in that conversation about Rogan and then got super crazy, like calling me anti-vax and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's not the point. But I was like, you know, I don't feel the need to explain it to this person, right? I don't even know her. And then in the end, she ended up calling me a Karen. And I'm like, this is the problem with liberals now. This is the problem with liberals now. They tell you as a Black person what to get offended by. And if you're not offended, you're a Karen. I'm like, oh, this is out of control. So she did. She's a random California liberal. She did. And everybody was like, oh my God. Like, you were just, but that's what I'm saying. Like, liberals have also become so extreme, and they, you know, they are a part of the extreme liberals, right? Like, there's progressives who are like more rooted in what they're doing, but the so-called like liberals at this point are just the other side of the, you know, ultra right coin to me. They just, you know, they just use this like, oh, we're protectors of Black people and women and this and that, but then they're the first to tell you how to feel and what to be offended about. And if you don't play, you know, if you don't fall in line, now you're racist. It's like, wait, what?
Mela, we're going to talk about this and more and then some, because it is just a thing that is fully fascinating all the way. And why I label them centrist appeasers, because, you know, people with liberal, neoliberal, for like the casual people, you know, they may get confused in terms of who, you know, broadly speaking, or who, if you label, you know, Kamala neoliberal or other people like that. And I just call them centrist appeasers, like Elizabeth Warren. I call them anyone that's to, like, say, the right of Bernie Sanders while being maybe to the left slightly of Obama and Biden. Like, I call, you know, them just like Nancy Pelosi would be, and I call them centrist appeasers, because they appease the centrists and they appease the status quo, who want to go, you know, in terms of preserving things and try to false equivocate us in terms of rational lefties to people that's extreme on the right. And it's just so problematic.
Exactly. Centrist is a nice way of putting it. This is a whole other conversation, but
Indeed.
Kamala is a woo, that to me is, if she gets another position, they're going to do the craziest things with her in power. She is I feel like she's really riding the I'm Black thing when it to a point where I don't think she has earned it. But no, I don't.
You
Her
think
experience,
so?
she grew up with an Indian mother, an East Asian mother, and her experiences. Yes, she went to Howard. That doesn't like, you can't ride on Be Black just because you went to Howard. The policies as a prosecutor in the Bay Area were, a lot of people criticize it because it was harsh. The sentences was harsh under her. Not that this matters, but she's also married to a white man. Not that that matters again, but I think she's overdoing the, you know, vote for me because I'm Black thing, because she didn't really grow up in that space, and a lot of her work doesn't really speak to things that were good for that community. So anytime somebody's like, vote for me because I'm a woman, vote for me because I'm Black, I'm like, nope, this is the new game. It's the new game. It's the new game, and I'm not doing it because, you know.
I will say it is way better in terms of you saying it, because we're Black and we can judge it, where then, you know, someone who's non-Black, you know, having that analysis of that, and how we have to sometimes tell our non-Black leftist or progressive friends, you may want to just let us,
Exactly. Let us do some of the deciding. Stop telling us who's Black and who's not, and who to support and who not to support. Like, it's so crazy. It's like this fake, like, you know, democracy and justice. It's like, no, let us decide. Like, when she was on that interview talking about, like, they were talking about her dad being Jamaican, and she's like, yeah, like, you know, smoke weed or something, just fed into that stereotype. Yeah, when her father is an educated person, you know, of some Black descent,
who we never see, sadly. And he's a real level of Marxist thought, even though I wish he was a boyish all the way. But I need to really try to track him and interview him, because we never hear about him. And it's so, you know, really, you know, fortunate, you know, in terms of that. And it's just a thing that's fascinating all the way, especially since I had two people that have been close to her throughout the years. So it's kind of like a, you know, weird situation, you know, with that. But it is something where, at the very least, hey, look, she's to the right of Bernie. And, you know, Bernie or Nina Turner or Rashida Tlaib, you know, decide to run for, you know, president, because unfortunately, Omar would be ineligible because of our ridiculous rules, then it's
I don't like her either, so that's fine. She's taking pictures with Tedros Adhanom. She's connected to the ethno-fascist group on the Horn of Africa. I'm good. Like, I'm honestly good with these so-called, like, you know, minority politicians. They're ambitious just like everybody else, but then they get away with a lot more just because they have that cover. I'm good. Let's all just talk about what these people have done and what they actually stand for, and if they have the courage to go against the system. That's what we need. I don't care if it's a white person that's able to do that, that's able to call out the way the mainstream media is weaponizing their role, to keep people divided, and to keep the truth away from the surface, and to keep perpetuating stereotypes, and it's actually causing real damage and losing real lives. So I just think we have to, anytime they start to say, oh, vote for them because they're the first Black, first women, it's like, nope, tell me more. No.
Mela, you so real, girl. We appreciate you all the way.
Thank
the great
you.
Hermela Aregawi, this quality colleague. We will close out on it with her great whole song right here, in terms of landing
I
the
was gonna bump like this.
a tribute to the movement. I'm adding this to the playlist because this is tremendous. All right,
Yes,
y'all.
I love it. Thanks, Andrew.
Of course, Top Queen, no doubt about it. We will have this on playback later in the day. But until then, it's overtime. The great Hermela Aregawi. I am out in Jones. Peace. Talk to you all later.
More.
Bye-bye.
No more. Bye.
Hey.